What is up, my beautiful people? We're back with another episode of Between Two Sheets, where we bring you interesting people from around the world. And this week, we have a very, very good couple friend. How do you say that? This is Dini and Pablo. We ran into Dini and Pablo at least 3 or 4 times while sailing around the world in different spots, right?
Yeah.
And every time we did, it was beautiful and really fun, and we just connected really well. And they have a family, and we're growing our family. Hopefully, we'll have 11 more, right? 11. And I really wanted to kind of sit down with you guys and just get your opinions on. We're both transiting from boats to land life at the same time.
Correct.
And I want to know what your journey was like on the boat with your kids, how long you've been on the boat, and why you chose Medellin to transition off. But you guys still own your boat, right? So you really hadn't quite let go.
Yeah.
So maybe firstly just kind of explain to me who you guys are and how your boating life started.
Ladies first?
You want the short story or the long story?
Sure, whatever, yeah.
The boating life, if you want to go really far back, for me it started when I was as little as Luna and I could barely walk, and my grandpa taught me how to sail. And then fast forward to 20 years from there, it was always a passion. I worked on the super yachts for a while once I graduated and did that typical Aussie thing. And when Pablo and I met in our early mid-20s in Sydney,
She gave me no choice.
So it was boat or nothing?
You want to be with
awesome.
me? Come sailing
Really?
this weekend.
Wow.
Kind of like that.
it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, our friends started getting into the mortgage thing when things got a bit more serious. I mean, the babies were there already at that point. They came pretty quickly. And I told him there's no way. I'm not going to put my savings into something that doesn't move, that doesn't float. And so Pablo had no idea about sailing because he grew up in Patagonia in the mountains. And
Really? You're from Patagonia?
Yeah, I'm from the lakes, from the snow.
With
So
no mosquitoes.
Really?
really
Well, close to no
didn't have
mosquito.
any first-hand experience at all. Like I started sailing with her on the twilight races in Sydney Harbour, and slowly I was like, actually I really like this. This is cool.
So give me a timeline onto when you moved onto the boat, when you had kids, like how old was Gael?
so Noah, we met, and then a year later we were married. A year later Noah was there, and that was still mid-20s. So you late 20s by that point.
I would be like, late 20s for me. Yeah.
And Noah was born in 2011. And from that point on, it was clear, I had made it very clear that I wasn't going to do the standard mortgage thing. And that I always had that dream of going sailing. Like I'd worked on the yachts and I'd sailed and I worked on sail training ships. But I had this dream of buying this old, 20-meter, you guys say 60 feet or something, schooner with some friends and redo her and sail off. And then all of a sudden, I found myself there with my second kid and married, and I still had that dream. I'm like, okay. And I had met people on the way. They were like, great dream, tell me when it's ready. But that's not what I was looking for, right? I wanted to be a group effort. And I'm like, okay, well, that dream's still there. So it looks like I'm just going to make my crew. And so we did. And then at that point, we fine-tuned it. It's like, we're really going to do that. I had him on board. And then we just used the few years between, or as we were making the first 2 babies, to save up, and did things like renting out a room in our house in Sydney, and
Not going to restaurant, not buying clothes,
Exactly,
like
yeah,
saving
picnics.
every penny.
but
And
we
did
still
it.
had a fun life.
Yeah.
But we cut off all. Our deal was like anything that's not necessary. Like, I don't care if I go to a fancy restaurant or if I have a picnic on the beach. So that would then become picnic on the beach to save that kind of money. So we weren't prepared to not have fun on the way. We still had an awesome life, enjoyed Bondi as you do in your 20s. And at the same time, we're able to save up enough so that we could buy our own boat. And then when Gael was like a week old, our second one, we left Sydney, had sold everything or gave away, and went to the Med, where we bought a caravan. Sorry, you always correct me.
Motorhome.
I knew that was coming.
We're not that crazy.
Motorhome. And Then took 6 months to sail along the coastline, to drive along the coastline of Europe to figure out what boat exactly would suit our growing family.
Oh, that must have been so cool.
Yeah.
Intense as well.
Intense.
Yeah.
Was it? Why?
Well, it was in the middle of the summer. It's the European summer because as soon as we bought it in Germany and then we drove south. So we were all in the Mediterranean area, right?
Was it hot?
Yeah, very hot. Yeah, very hot.
I don't even remember the heat being
Oh, yeah, I
intense.
do
It's more like
remember
learning to
perfectly.
live in a small space
It
together.
it's smaller than a boat, or at least the one we ultimately bought. So it was a hard transition because we were coming from Sydney. You know, we have a nice rental property near the beach. Like
So every morning with our space.
going for with the Vespa, going to the beach, then to work. Like really, life was great in Sydney. It's just
And you ruined it
yeah, we ruined it.
on purpose.
Sailing dreams ruin a great life. I think that's what people need to hear. I'm gonna repeat it. Sailing dreams can ruin a perfect life.
I think we just found the title for the video.
At the end of the day, it's about who you are and what the things you like in life. And we wanted adventure. That's the reality. You don't do it for, I think, many other reasons than, exciting moments and adventure and the unknown and getting to new places. You don't get any of that if you just stay in one place. Like, it might be beautiful, but it gets just a normal routine.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so put this into perspective for the people watching. It's what year?
2000.
So by the time we get to Europe, it's 2013. We have a baby and a toddler. We've lived in a motorhome for 6 months. And do you want the details or shall we fast
Sure,
forward?
well, yeah, whatever you want to share.
I mean, we just shared a kind of low point with you in the Azores. There was many high moments. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
driving through Europe, is stunning. The food in France, my old friends in Spain, there was many amazing
Oh, no,
moments.
yeah, for sure.
And I tend to skip over them because most people who hear our story, they straight away think of that, oh, what an amazing life. And it's true, it exists totally. But what most people don't understand, that comes with a payoff. And the payoff comes with that the hard moments are just so much harder than in a steady life. You know that more than, just as much as us, right? And so at the end of those 6 months, there was a really hard moment because we'd started digging into our savings that were meant to be for the boat. We'd been through south of France, Spain, Portugal, even flew expensive trips to the Azores, listening to a broker's blah, blah. Never listen to brokers.
Looking for a Moody, right?
Look,
Yeah.
at that point, that was good. Like at the first moment we walked onto a Moody 425,
425.
we knew that was our boat, except that particular one was in a really bad state with a really high price tag, so it didn't work. But from that was good. It really helped us narrow down the center cockpit and the size that worked for us.
The budget, it was within our
Within
reach.
the budget. And then, we just started looking for Moody 41st. And the Azores one cost us a lot of money. It didn't work out. And then we went back, Atlantic coast of France. And by the time we got to, what's that big port called? I've got a mind blank there. La Rochelle.
La Rochelle,
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
It's the biggest port on the Atlantic coast of France and the Atlantic coast of Europe, where there's literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of boats. I don't know. It's huge. I've been in boating all my life. It's one of the biggest ports I've ever seen. And we're like, we must find one. And after a week there, I mean, good croissants and all that, but still no boat. The mood started shifting a bit, and it was October. And so we hopped over the channel because Moody's are English brand boats. And it was like, well, let's try where they come from. So maybe we can find more there. And one kept on popping up in Greece. And the whole idea of buying the camper van was that we won't spend all the money flying around, but we'll do it that way.
Did you take the camper van through the tunnel to England?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
I
Yeah.
found it more
It's like-
scary than cool. I'd rather sail on the water.
No, I have a
than-
good memory. Like, the what's the name of the port?
Calais.
Calais. Calais to Dover. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it was
cool.
my favorite. But anyway, we couldn't resist this Moody, and it kept popping up in Greece. She seemed perfect. Had a German owner, so you could be reasonably sure that she was looked after. And anyway, we were like, okay, that's the only option that was left. So I stayed with a baby and a toddler in this horrid camper van park near Gatwick Airport, so in London, in the middle of a huge city. whilst Pablo flew off to Greece to see the boat. And then I ran out of gas that afternoon and went for a walk with the kids to digest all that. It was freezing England in late November.
Yeah,
it's
November.
raining, it's miserable, it's freezing. Came back. Somehow I managed to lose my credit card on the way, so I couldn't get new gas. I was stuck there. The kids were hungry. I couldn't cook them. I'm like, if I don't get a call from Pablo in the next 24 hours saying, she's it, I'm on that next flight back home to Sydney, I'm done. And he did call in the next 24 hours and said that's it. Because
Really?
it's
Oh,
like,
that's cool. Serendipitous.
Yeah, let me take that part. We probably seen 50 boats by that time. Seriously, like dozens. And you never got that feeling of this is the one, or this look great and it feels good until that one. Like as soon as I step on that boat, I was, that's it. It's this one.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but with boats, for
It's
us
a
it's always
feeling,
been like,
it's-
we've had 4 now, and you know when it's, maybe a bit like when you choose a partner,
Well-
like you just know when it's right.
Yeah.
Did
You
you have that with
just-
your boats?
My decision on boats was always monetary. And it
okay.
was
Cold money.
yeah. I bought my oyster sight unseen during COVID. Didn't even get to get on the boat before I paid for it,
Wow.
Well,
which is
yeah.
crazy.
We would,
but,
Yeah,
never, we
that's
would never
crazy.
do that.
yeah,
We would never.
but I just got such a good
Yeah, you got a good
price
deal.
for it.
Right?
So that was why.
Well, the thing is, I think you kind of do, the research. You have to. You get to a criteria. You know
Yeah.
your budget. But for us, it's like there needs to be a next level, which you cannot monetize. You cannot quantify. And it's
feeling.
the feeling of how you feel in that.
Untangible.
Yeah, it's
And-
tangible.
And
It's not
let me
tangible.
add, you were in a very different situation. You were single, super handy. You knew you could take
Oh
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
project.
yeah.
I knew I couldn't, apart from the babies and a boat that's more or less functional, I could not take on another project. So, and him like working.
Yeah, I will have no experience. You didn't have much experience as skipper either at that time. So we needed something that we could step in and we could sail.
Yeah.
And one of the best investments we did, we spent that winter working in the UK, topping up the kitty again when we finally moved on board then the next spring in Greece. One of the best decisions, and I feel we've got many friends who sail, who are better sailors, they're handier than us and all that, including you, James.
Oh, thanks.
But actually that includes you too. They've all been in shittier situations, as in more dangerous or risky situations, because I feel our strength in that is that
We know our
so
limits.
far know
Yeah.
our limits, and maybe because we've already had the kids on the boat, we like kind of risk adverse in
You got to
it.
dial it back a little bit. When
And
you
so
got
one of the
kids.
first things we did, we paid an RYA skipper to come on board with us for, and bless him,
RYA
come on board
instructor.
for a week
That's
with the
hard.
kids, lived with us on the boat, and he spent the first 3 days with Pablo
Fixing
in the
our boat?
engine, because literally we were dragging onto a quay as he jumped on. The whole town had come together. It's like, look, that boat's about to crash, because we had no idea how to do the Mediterranean mooring. So
mooring.
we just watched what people did, pulled the anchor out, moved back onto the dock. But we hadn't really figured out that you need to make sure the anchor's kind of.
And it was a beautiful day, but suddenly it went sideways. Like it was
that's how
just
it happens.
a
So
storm.
that-
It was
that guy-
basically a storm came in,
Oh, that sucks.
and as we were trying to get the boat out of the quay, out of the town
The
quay,
engine
the
overheat.
engine overheat. So we have no engine at some point. So it was tough.
So he spent 3 days with Pablo in the engine room and turned an accountant. Can I say then?
At that time,
At that
definitely,
time, more into a functional mechanic.
And it was so like graphical. Like we were like in the middle of the storm, the boat like moving everywhere, like, and the guy was so calm, chill. I was like, I'm about
gonna
to
throw
throw up, and I still need to learn about how to fix the engine. Oh my god! And the guy was like nothing, like he was having a tea.
Yeah.
Like,
Which he did
I'm
a lot.
impressive.
He was
Yeah.
British. He drank
He
a
was
lot.
I've
impressive.
done that a few times, like been on people's boats that didn't know what they're doing and try to teach them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
it's the hardest job. I swear, it's hard.
We actually stayed friends for quite a few years. So.
Did you?
Yeah.
So we did something.
It's because it was just a week. Had it been like a month, you
Oh my
probably wouldn't
God.
be friends anymore.
At the end of the week, the guy was like, you could see that we were learning. We were not stupid. We were
Yeah.
learning from the mistakes, and we were taking his knowledge and he gave us the. Well, I got the day skipper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's something.
because the idea was to be trained again, get the certification as well.
He gave you a certification?
Pretty much, yeah.
Was it like a pin?
No, the actual
You've
RYA.
done it! With a smiley face on it.
And that was Europe, not Latin America.
Okay, so
And
we're
the other
in...
3 days he spent with me reversing into harbors. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
parking the boat, that was the part that I felt least.
Everyone.
And in the Caribbean here, it's not so important, but in Europe, man, you have a
Yeah.
port that's chock-a-block full of boats. There's not a single space you see.
You have to
and
make
you
the
have to
space.
edge your way in there with your
Yeah.
boat. That in our case was like a home. All our most of our savings were in there. It's like, whoa, that's a bit scary. So we just did that over and over
that's
again.
the same for every boat owner, I
It
think,
was-
is the...
The mooring.
that-
and
really never goes away. I mean, I've had 6 boats and 20 years on the water, and it's still like sometimes it's like, oh god, there's like $1 million boat here and a $2 million boat there, and I don't want to hit anybody.
You just check you got the insurance number.
You just don't let that out when you're doing it. You're just like, I got this. But inside you're like,
I'm actually not anymore, unless it's really intense.
Well, I mean, the Caribbean is different. It's not as Europe.
Caribbean
is you have more
Greece.
space.
Yeah.
You can sort of chill a bit more. I think, at least in the ports we've been in the countries,
Yeah.
and usually we don't tend to go to marinas a lot.
so let's go back chronologically. Right
Yeah.
now we're in 2014. Is that right?
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
around
Where
that
you
time.
you moved onto the boat.
Yeah.
And now Noah's how old at this point?
What? 2? And Gael 1?
Yeah,
Gael,
yeah.
2 and
1
1.
and 2.
You guys are ready to go in a couple months and cross the Atlantic, or what?
Oh, no,
what
not
happened?
ready to go. Like, we moved onto the boat in this bay in Kilada in Greece.
South of Greece. Yeah.
How did you like Greece?
Loved it.
Yeah, it's great. Like we were in the Peloponnese when we started,
Yeah.
right? And then we went to Crete and other places.
Crete was much later. Went to the Ionian first.
The Ionian first because it's just easier, like except the people that rent boats. And
Oh, I've heard that. That's where they get all those really
my
good
God,
videos.
It's so funny until they hit you, right? Or until they drag your anchor.
So Greece, the one thing you're gonna know if you're going sailing in Greece from 4 p.m. onwards, you need to be on your boat for a couple of hours because that's when all the charters come in, and many of them are set up in the way that maybe it's 10 boats, and then the captain of all his 10
The
boats
flotilla.
will be like a 16-year-old bloke.
Not
Like,
16, but
okay,
maybe
sorry,
19.
17.
Maybe
Oh,
19.
Sorry, 19. Huge difference, 19. And the rest of the boats will have people in there who'd never been on a boat before. And they come into these, like, it's chock-a-block. It's nothing. I think if you haven't been, like, the Caribbean is nothing compared to that. You go to a karate anchorage in the Caribbean, take that times 100. That's what it looks like in Europe. And
I just can imagine now, 10 years later, there might be so many.
maybe even more. And
Even
there's a
more.
different way of, like, you always do the in the Caribbean, you drop your anchor and then you hope that the boats near you swing around in the same way with the tides or with whatever's going on, the wind and
It's tough.
the currents.
Yeah,
Whereas in the
Mediterranean is tough.
Mediterranean, you tie your boat front and back so that you're in a more or less steady position. And so anchors get ripped all the time. And
They get crossed. And
so yeah, you pour yourself a gin and tonic, sit on the bow, and like you say, it's funny till they pull out your anchor.
And the one I remember very well, it was this flotilla, and the actual person that dragged our anchor was not any of the unexperienced one. It was the actual skipper, or the one in charge of the whole flotilla, the one that is supposed to have experience.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Now, how long have you guys been cruising? Almost 10 years now, right?
10 years. But
On and off,
So it was like about 3 years in the Mediterranean. So we did Greece, Turkey, Malta, Italy, a bit of a trip to Spain. That was a land trip down to Morocco.
Land trip, yeah.
And then when we were about to cross the Atlantic, basically, I fell seasick for the first time in my life, which wasn't really seasick. It was the third baby on the way.
Oh, I know someone that happened to.
And there it all went south, as in the boys were amazing pregnancies with the girl. By that time, we'd figured out how we fall pregnant. So it wasn't like so much of a surprise, but the idea was, well, if it happens, easy, we'll keep sailing across the Atlantic and then have the baby in the Caribbean. What I didn't calculate on or didn't know that the girl pregnancy for me was so different. With the boys, it was the time of my life. I shone, I had energy. With the girl, I was down. I was incapable of skippering any boat, let alone one across the Atlantic. And, I was...
You were spitting fire. Like, you were like, yeah.
I was the devil. On every possible level. So, yeah.
I was like, you know, like in jail, like crossing the days until the pregnancy is done.
Cut a long story short, we kind of freaked out and decided to go back home to city. And
and what happened was we put the boat for sale, and lucky or unlucky, the first person bought it. Like, we put it on for sale in Malta.
Thanks
'cause
to
we were
our
there.
blog.
Yeah, she made a blog.
Still out there, but has not been touched since that moment.
Yeah.
Sailing Yoga Family.
That's
And there's
amazing.
even a few videos from, I mean, nothing compared to the videos you do. Back then it wasn't a thing yet, but we did it for friends and family. If anyone is curious to see a completely non-professional video,
Non-professional. Yeah.
but of two babies on
But
a
this
boat.
person's
Well, don't worry, they're
was
seeing it
following.
right now.
was following the blog, and that's how he found out that the boat was for sale. And
Cool.
it
Yeah,
was a
first-
Maltese with some partner, I don't know, another Maltese. It took like a couple of months until they bought it, but they bought it. And then we left. Yeah, we left for Australia.
So we're back in Australia, and I thought, well, we have a little break. And the moment we get back home, Pablo says, by the way, I'm never stepping on a boat ever again. And I'm like,
that crystal clear and said, but
that's
I
how
kind
I
of
remember
sent
it.
that message. But for me, it was more that I was a bit lost professionally, and I wanted to have another direction on my career. I was like a typical accountant for a big firm and always very corporate, but I just didn't want that. Didn't want that anymore. So.
Well, at this time, this was before Starlink, so it's
Yeah.
impossible to have like a real job when you're sailing around.
Well, I actually did. I
It was
actually
hor-
did have a.
I did too. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Super hard. Super
Because
hard.
when we were in Malta, one of the winters we spent in Malta, like just the boat park and the marina, and I found a job as an accountant for a French sort of oil training company, like this medium company in Malta. So I was kind of the controller, doing the accounting and all that. And at some point I said, well, actually I'm leaving. I'm going on my boat. Can I still have the job? And he was like very surprised, but open. I said, okay, let's try it.
Cool.
So I still had a job. So he was paying me half because obviously it wasn't the same.
You were a digital nomad before it was cool.
Yeah. But it was a nightmare for me. But it was more about, I wasn't really happy with the actual job. I didn't want to do it anymore. So imagine if you're doing a job that you don't like, plus all the inconveniences of being on a boat, like finding a connection at that time, 2014, 15. It was about literally, it was like, okay, we're going to this bay. Do you have coverage? Do you have signal? I'm not sure. I need to drop the anchor now. Yes or no?
Oh my god.
It was that stressful.
Did you have that like an antenna thing?
I have a
that-
booster, but it was
The
crap.
booster thing.
Yeah, I mean, it helped a little bit, but I mean, it was.
I think I remember seeing that on your boat. It's on your boat now, right?
that's
Well, that was the
another
previous.
Oh,
movie,
okay.
but yeah, we do have. Yeah, we
most
have another one on
expensive
the boat.
product we've ever bought.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was hard at that time. It was now Stanley has changed the scene completely.
Changed
Like
the
it's amazing. Like I'm still now I'm a digital nomad, business consultant, and you know I have meetings during passage, like from Cayman to whatever. Mexico, I'm about to puke, but I still have the meeting and taking the client meeting.
Let's fast forward even more. Really quickly, run me through. You sold the boat, and then you bought another boat, and
So-
then
Well, that's in a span of 4 years.
So
Yeah.
at that point in Sydney, we had our baby girl, who's now 8, not so baby anymore. And I thought, okay, fair enough. He came sailing with me. Time for me to compromise. Because by that point with 3 kids, it's like divorce wasn't really an option anymore. I couldn't pull that card. And so I tried everything possible to hand over, like to make his dreams come true. He always wanted a house and piece of land, so at least I could veer it in a direction which I thought would be wonderful. And it turned out the biggest nightmare we've I think had in the 15 years together is we bought a piece of land in the Nara Eco Village, an hour north of Sydney. I know they say there's no bad advertisement, but that was full of the most horrible people. That was such a human deception, apart from losing a lot of money based on the lies that village is based on. I'm getting emotional, aren't I?
So wait, why? I don't understand. Can you explain a little more?
Oh, you want more details?
Yeah.
Because
these are juicy.
Okay. What I learned from there is that if like the communities I've seen and lived in that grow from small to big, one, and two, have a common philosophy that's strong enough to tie them together when conflict arises. Because conflict's going to arise no matter what when humans live together. You guys are a couple, you know, like that, whether it's 2 people or 20 or 200, it's a community. And that had none of those two. For me, that's the two main ingredients that make a community living work. They started huge. Few people bought a massive piece of land an hour north of Sydney, so quite expensive. Huge financial pressure, so they had to lure people in based on lies. Some people say it's a strong word, but deceptions or untruths and so on. So that's how we got pulled in. And then also ecology, like it was an eco-village. Ecology is something different for everyone. For one, in that village, it was buying 2 Teslas when they weren't even out yet. For the next one was spending a whole day in the garden. For the next one was installing the solar panels on the roof. It's nothing that is enough to bind you together when conflict arises. And conflict arose constantly, of course. We had bad luck with the builders. People were building there, and like that was already adding tension. But then the moment where it was just too much was when one of the other dads hit my how old was it? 4.
Yeah, probably
like
4 or
toddler.
5.
Like he had aggression problems, and he hit his own children and his wife, which we then learned. And then that was bad enough, but then the way how it was handled was just so deceiving on a human level. So it wasn't even the money we lost, and that was painful, but the human deception, because we walked into that project thinking, wow, Eco Village is going to be the big family that we've never had, and that was really hard to digest. And also trusting the universe. In the end, that was what got him a step closer to wanting to move back on a boat. That together with like a career shift and COVID, those 3 ingredients.
Yeah. By that time, I made it like a good change in my career and made me realize that what I was doing now, I could become a consultant and be a digital nomad. Like I could see myself doing that. And while I was still on my Sydney corporate job, I started to get clients on those freelancing sites.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, actually, I can do this. And that's when I say, okay, yeah, I'm ready.
Do it and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm ready to, because obviously, as a family, you need to, we are not rich people, we don't have huge savings, so I needed at some point to make money to sustain the adventure. And that was the opportunity to be a consultant while sailing, while cruising.
And how did you set that up?
Well, literally, the kind of work that I was doing at that company, it's perfect for consulting. So I work in data analytics. Like I have to, help companies utilize their data to make decisions. And I started to get job by subscribing of one of those freelancing site like Upwork. And like not after a while I got a client, and then I got another one, and suddenly I was like, having my full-time job and staying until midnight with clients from the US, and I was like, wow, this is getting serious. I can do this.
Cool.
Yeah. And since then it's been 3-4 years, and I'm basically like a almost top-rated what is it called, badge in the website, and it's been great. I love it.
And so you guys bought another boat.
Yep.
You took it.
Okay. In Sydney, we had a little boat. I can't live without a boat, so
yeah, we have one.
we bought a little 33 footers. She was perfect for weekends, and it was the best of both worlds, kind of, because every Friday we'd get there, spend till Sunday night. Holidays we'd spent there and sailed around in the Hawkesbury River and a little bit up and down the coast of New South Wales. And if something was broken, you didn't feel like fixing it, you just did it next weekend. And in between, you had all the shops at your hand. It was easy, and because she was so small, and the weekend sailor systems were a lot easier. So
Yeah.
it was.
We put a new engine, so we didn't have to worry about the engine, and sails are smaller. Like, it was so much easier to
It
handle.
was easy.
We didn't have to have like any electronics, anything like complex. It was just so easy to.
But then, the time came, and to get all those different combos with COVID hitting Australia a little bit later than the rest of the world, you being more open because the whole Eco Village drama had been closed at that point, and and then we decided to go again because we had the perfect life. We were living like in a little beach hut, could surf every morning, and kids.
We could literally surf, like jumping on your board on our backyard, and the backyard was connected to a little river that would go to the ocean.
Cool.
So again,
Literally, it was amazing.
that shows a bit how limited we are in some space of our brain, because again we had the really, looking back, pretty perfect life, and again we gave it up. It's like an infectious, I don't know if it's infectious, but it's like a disease. No, not
It's like a
infectious.
mental
It's
problem.
in your DNA.
Yeah, it's a mental problem.
It's like, but if you're born with it, and it's only if, and I feel there's very few people, and what we've seen since the pandemic, so that's kind of our second round of living abroad, and we came to the Caribbean, bought another Moody, this time a Moody 44. We love Moody's. And seeing the population that's out there on boats seems to have changed so much. And there is so many out there because they've seen YouTube videos.
Like yours.
Sorry.
No, I'd say yours actually more realistic, but I feel there's many
true.
others that just show
The pretty
the-
part.
2% of where it's absolutely stunning, never the 10% that's really good, and rarely even the
I know
50%
why.
that's kind of just...
I know why. Because in the shooting time, we forget the camera.
Yeah, but they don't even mention it. So they sell a dream. I don't know if that's what people want to see. And so I feel that combined with the pandemics made that now there's so many people out there, including so many more families. We calculated when we were first doing this 10 years ago, according to Jimmy Cornell's statistic, there were only 100 families at a time full-time sailing on the boat. Like, considering
In the whole
pandemic-
world.
In the whole world. So I knew we knew each other, even if we hadn't met in person, like you kind of were in touch somehow via email, if people still do that.
I'm pretty sure now it's like 20 times full.
And
like,
now it's full. And many people do it for a year and then are so, like, they've given up their life at home, and either they get divorced or they sell the boat or both. And they just, it's hard being out there. So I guess what I'm trying to say here, and I feel that's important for people to know, it's not the summer night's dream that you look at a YouTube video and think it's all pretty. Like, if you love that, go get a charter for a couple of weeks and you have the best of all worlds. But you really have to be somehow psycho to go out and live that life. And even more so if, like,
I mean, if you don't have any idea about sailing, or you haven't even stepped on a boat before, like, we know people that they have done that. They buy a boat, they have no idea.
Well, it's happened many times on
intense.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I think, like,
And,
the
you know, a
most
lot of-
famous YouTube sailors are like that. He
Well,
didn't know
like, if
anything
you-
about sailing.
I don't know if I can mention it, but La Vagabond was exactly that case. The
Yeah.
guy bought that Veneto with no idea about sailing. For him, it was a great experience, and he meant it to work.
But then for some people it works out. He's obviously like...
Yeah, he's handy and he's smart, and he
And most people, the intensity, because it's not like if you're used to fixing things in a house, that'll definitely come in handy on a boat. But in a house, if you don't feel like fixing it, or a storm comes up, or the kid is sick, you leave it lowest priority and you do it tomorrow. On a boat, often it's such that you cannot leave it, even if you're completely sleep deprived, you're about to break down, you've got COVID, the kids are crying. The boat is relentless. Like, you
Yeah.
still,
Yeah, the boat's
you
sinking
still have to,
right now.
it'll sink.
you
And if
do
you
it-
have a family on
Yeah.
there, that means your family will sink. And that's a constant thing that's present.
Yeah, it's way harder than people think.
Yeah, I guess
It's
that
much,
sums it
much,
up.
much
Much
harder
harder
than
than-
people
That
think.
Yeah.
sums it up.
Which is one of the reasons why we've decided to move landbound. We're gonna have a boat. I'm like you. I cannot live without a boat.
I know.
I'm just gonna take a break for a little while. But that's one of the major reasons is because it's way harder than people think. And for the last few years, I've always thought, I would just wish I had a house I could go to for a couple months just to get away, just to say like
Recharge, you know, recharge.
Yeah. Pause this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recharge, and then I'll come back, and I'll have a renewed vigor. But if you're on it all the
Yeah.
time, it really
no break.
drains on you, man.
You can't even drop the anchor and say I'm taking a month's break because the weather's not going to take a break. If the weather turns the anchor drags, maybe not yours, the other anchor drags, you're in it. There's no thing.
Yeah, you
There's
can
this thing
escape.
like
Like at some point, you're gonna have some sort of emergency or something that will bring stress. At the time, you probably wanted to just relax. You can't avoid it. Yeah, and that's why we're also doing what you're saying. Like we are here in Medellin.
Yeah, tell us that story. What was the catalyst to actually move to land again?
I don't think there's like one particular moment, but so again, the last 3 years we spent in the Caribbean sailing with the kids on beloved Moody, and it just interestingly, I'm who was always the one in the sailor of the family initiating like, let's go, I cannot live on land. Our deal was always if one of the five has had enough or doesn't enjoy it anymore, we pull the brake. And I must admit it was me who pulled the brake. Like it's been coming, building, but because, well, thankfully Pablo can work, which means like we have got that income that pays for the boat repairs, which is, apart from food, really the only expense we have, and the Starlink now. It's paused. And that leaves me with the boat, most of the boat maintenance, the captaining, the homeschooling, trying to do my own work, which is always like left with, the teaching the yoga and the tantra and so on. And then the usual mother stuff, like the cooking and the cleaning. And so that just all adds up. And for me, in the end, it was so much that although it's all things that I'd probably enjoy by themselves, but it was too much. And then I ended up enjoying nothing anymore, not even the sailing. Like the last passage down from Cuba, I used to love being on passage. And I was just counting the days till we'd finally get to Panama out of the hurricane season. It was just all getting too much. And then that reflect, the kids can feel that, and they're pretty flexible. I mean, the way they've grown up on a boat across so many
But the older
countries.
one, he's 13, and although he was never really complaining about the sailing life,
he was the main one who loved it most.
yeah. But then he was, I would like to go to school. Like he was already, at
I
that
guess that's
day-
the other thing. And there's
Yeah.
the golden age. That's for the families out there, they say, and I can confirm that what we
4 to 12.
4 to 12 with kids, because they're old enough to take it all in and young enough to still want to spend time with you. And we're actually really like that. And we're really observing that. No, I just turned 13, and yeah, that's played into it as well. Like the kids and the boys, you can feel it in both of them, like those pre-teenage vibes. And it was just getting a lot of energy to manage on the boat. It was time to have something different. And so what we're aiming
And at
for...
the time we met you, we were in Cartagena, right?
Yep.
So we flew to Medellin.
yeah.
Yeah. So we did that land trip, and that's how kind of we fall in love with Medellin. We love it, the city, the surroundings,
Yeah.
the
The
people.
people, the
Like
food.
we love Colombians,
The food.
and I think it's mostly the people, obviously.
There's more to
Yeah.
it. But
There's more to it,
that's
but
definitely
it really makes the whole difference. We just connect with Colombians a lot. We both speak Spanish. Yeah.
I would 100% consider going back home, but Pablo loves his
I don't.
Latino homelands, so that didn't seem like an option, and then we had to look for another option, and Central America wasn't an option for us anymore. I'm not sure if I can say that here,
Sure, you can.
assuming your audience is mainly North American,
Why?
because of the North American influence in Central America.
Are you serious? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, now we come back on track here. Colombians, any Colombian that we've met anywhere, we've always loved.
Their personality, the way they are, the joy they bring to you, how.
Can you cut that too? Because we wanted to keep it a secret.
What?
Because we don't want this to be run over by like non-Colombians.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well.
Shh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll raise
next
your
question.
property value. Yeah, Colombia is cool. I really
Maybe
like
we
it.
just say that we are in.
I'm a bit
Bucaramanga.
biased though. These guys are biased too. They've met you, the best Colombian ever. I'm married to one.
Not yet. I don't see my
Ooh. Where's the ring? I don't see the ring.
That's what I said. I don't see
Oh,
my
we had
ring.
the same back then. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know why Colombia. I want to know what you're doing with the boat and what your plans are in the future. How you're going to meld this. You've still got the bug. You know, that's an inflection you'll have forever.
There's no vaccine for it.
No, unfortunately. So I've got it too, and I'm just wondering like how I can learn from you guys, maybe on how to have a
Yeah,
dual
I
life,
mean-
be a secret agent.
Equilibrium.
Look, honestly, I don't think we have the secret. We're just trying now. We're not, because what we felt at that time when we sold the boat in Europe and then we were in Sydney, especially you, felt that we rushed it. Like we sold the boat too quickly. I was still with the hormones. I was pregnant. It's all your fault.
Why'd you let me do that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's your fault.
So this time we're not making that mistake. We're keeping. We know it's money, but we can afford it to have the boat in Panama, in the yard, waiting for us. If everything here goes south, we still have that option.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's the plan. Like to have our boat. We love our boat. Like I'm very attached to our boat now because of all the ones we have now. I think this is the one that we really put our hands on the boat, and we repair a lot of things, and we really have. I feel I have a bit more experience, and yeah, I feel like I have definitely more attachment than the previous movie. So yeah, I mean.
So adding to that,
Yeah.
we kind of made a promise if we can financially afford it, as in if he keeps having his clients and so on, we will not sell her for the first year because of given reasons. We regretted it the first time around. And see how it all works out. Could well be with us that we just need a little break out here in the green, and after 6 months we're like, you know what?
That's just I say to James. Maybe in 6 months we say, oh, you know what? Let's go back to the
Yeah,
boat.
but you guys bought a finca here, right? You guys bought a pretty big farm here,
Yeah,
didn't
well,
you?
we can rent it out or resell it.
They have open mind like you.
We still
That
haven't
was
paid for it, but yeah, we are in the process.
Oh, you
yeah.
can still get out.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, we could.
That's a whole other. Let's not go down.
Are
that
you
rabbit
guys
hole.
are you guys in that headspace right now? Have you like talked about like let's run away right now and just go back?
No, I mean, I think we. I think it crossed her mind, but with any big decisions, you always have doubts, and I think even with the boats, at some point we have doubts. Even when we bought the boat in Panama, are we buying it this is too expensive? No, we should try harder, and it's a lot of money that you invest in one thing.
Yeah.
And we have very definitive savings, so it always creates doubts. And
So the dream at the moment
Yeah.
is to have the finca here, the boat in San Blas, from Medellin driving down to Sapsurro, thank you. At the moment it's 6 hours. A friend of ours who works in construction, he says they're going to improve the road. So it might get cut down to 4 hours at one point. They're also thinking about building a marina down there. And so the best world for us would be if we could have the boat down there in a marina on a quay, which is 24-hour sailing in San Blas, which is our favorite. Again, we should mention it.
I'll cut that out.
Look, this could happen in 5 years. You don't know.
No, I tell
10
people,
years.
I tell everybody that San Blas is my favorite place in the Caribbean, and it's not overrun by people yet.
Yes, so let's not say it, James. Come on.
It's such a
Hummus.
good spot.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so that we could have the best of both worlds, perhaps. Spend 8 months on the farm here with the animals, and then we find I've got plenty of friends who are like, I'm looking after everything, and then we can go down and
Yeah.
sail the Caribbean for the other 4 months, and
It might be
Yeah.
cut down to 2 with the school holiday, but yeah, maybe we stretch
maybe
it to 3.
4 for me, and then the kids come for 2.
They go to the boarding school for a couple of months.
Well, something like that is what we are aiming for,
Yeah.
because I know I can't live without them.
I love that plan. I think Colombia is a perfect spot to do that. Yeah. Cool.
Why?
who's doing this interview? I think it's close enough to San Blas, and
Yeah.
it's close enough to the Pacific, where if you had to, you could have a boat. You could live in Cali. You could have a boat in somewhere near in the Pacific side, and you could literally go all over there. Or here is a really good spot since you're only 6 hours from Sabzoro. The cool thing about Medellin is it's eternally springtime here.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful. The climate here is beautiful. Well, yeah, it's a cold spring right now. But it rained last night, and it's been kind of warm.
Yeah, up here in the mountains, it's a lot colder than down in the city.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Medellin is hot. Like if you go in the middle of the day, it's hot.
Yeah, when I say Medellin, I'm talking about the mountains and around.
Oh, okay, not the city.
I
yeah.
would never live in the city. Personally, I don't like cities. It's like too many rats in a box.
Yeah.
They start to chew each other's tails off. Not kidding. I don't like cities. You know what
Same. Yeah, we don't.
that stems from being in apartments as a poor child, and them like banging on the floor when I was playing my music too loud and stuff.
Maybe my kids are going to say the same thing. That stems from living on a tiny
Yeah.
boat when I was a kid.
Yeah. Sorry, honey.
was banging
I'm
the
a little,
hull.
Yeah.
Can I throw in the best parenting advice I ever gotten? I was back in Australia. This granny comes up on the playground. It's like, darling, whatever you're going to do, you're going to screw them up. And that lifted so much weight off my shoulder coming from like this experienced grandma. I'm like, thank you. I might as well just live my life then and let them tag along.
Yeah.
I think for me, the message to all the people out there that they are sailing or they want to cruise and they're thinking about buying a boat is, at the end, you realize you have to find a way that it works for you and everyone. If you are with your family, don't get attached to, we bought this because we wanted to sail around the world in 2 years and that's what we're going to do. You're going to fail completely if you're trying to stick like blindly to a plan.
It
You're
works.
gonna miss
I've seen a few that it works for, but very few.
Yeah, you have to be flexible. You have to come with your open mind, saying, "Okay, I'm embarking in this new adventure on a boat. Let's see how that works for us. Let's be open about how much time we're gonna spend, where we're gonna go. It might be that you need to be for a year on the same plane until you learn the ropes. Is it the
Yeah. That's how
learn
it's
the
said.
ropes and."
Good English.
And and you feel comfortable to be out there and get into big waves. It might take you a year. Who knows? It might take you more. So you just need to be open on your expectations or have low expectation or just be, baby steps.
Some people never sail to
Yeah.
across the Pacific.
Yeah,
and that's
and-
not a
and
bad
they're
thing.
happy, and they're
Seriously,
happy.
it's not a bad thing.
It's
I
not a
mean,
bad thing.
You
It's
don't
about
have to. Sometimes that's the worst part. If you don't like being underway, you're never just gonna like it more if you
No.
go for 30 days.
I mean,
underway.
there's the famous story. Whoever spent some time in San Blas knows Debbie, no? She, I think, sailed there with her husband 30 years ago with the plan to sail around the world. She's Aussie as well. And after 7 years sailing around San Blas, they decided not only that they're not going to sail around the world because they found the best spot already, they literally dropped anchor and turned it into a mooring. And the last 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, they've been, well, he's passed now, bless him. But yeah, she's still in the same spot.
They are very famous.
yeah.
And she seems happy.
Yeah. They were very happy. Pretty cool, actually.
They were happy and she still seems happy.
That reminds me of like Warren Buffett buying his house in 1962 for $20,000 and then becoming a billionaire and still living in the same house. Like,
I didn't know that story.
yeah, did you?
No.
And like you have to basically both of those stories mean to me that you really have to be okay with the space that you're at, and it's not all about what's next or the bigger thing or what did that guy do. It's about what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good point to stop this interview. This
Awesome.
is making you guys happy. I'm so happy for you. I miss you guys. It's so cool to run into you again.
On land,
Yeah.
very
On
strange.
land.
I've always thought having a trifecta life would be cool, like having a house maybe in Medellin and then having another house somewhere colder and then having a
Even
boat
colder. You crazy?
somewhere. It's not cold here. Come on. Having a boat
She-
in
she's
French
special with
Polynesia
cold.
or something would be cool. So I actually thought it would be really cool to have another couple or two to like share the expenses of those things. That would be pretty neat.
Like a
Talking
timeshare.
about that, James.
Almost like a timeshare.
Let me
like
think about it.
Yeah. We-
On what? Like what's included? The kids, the dogs.
No, your wife.
yeah, we just move and then the kids stay. That would be so funny.
Which part moves?
Wow,
which
you
part
speak Spanish a lot
stays?
better now, Luna. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
She's passed as my kid already.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
Le veo sus dientes.
Oh, poor little girl. Okay, well, much love, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, man. A
Thank
pleasure.
Thanks for sitting down with
Been
us.
great.
Thank you. Look forward to next time.
Okay, peace.
Cool. That was almost like having a conversation between